Hey everyone. It blows my mind how some comedians are able to make a living out of their jokes, or even get their names out there in the first place. Because the stuff they say feels like it would make most people mad at them, or just not support the stuff. But somehow, a few select people have transcended that, and even became well known for it. With an example being Ari Shaffir. If you don't know him, you might at first think his style of comedy is more toned down and tame, but in reality, his jokes feel like they're fed to him by an edgy teenager through an earpiece, because they feel like they're forced purely to be shocking. Couple that with the fact that he never shows any regret with his jokes, no matter how poor taste they might be in, or how horribly they've aged. I understand that a huge crux of comedy is to joke about serious topics, but with him, it really feels like he couldn't care less about the subject and just wants to be edgy. For me, watching this was painful, but if by the off chance you're a fan of his, you'll probably enjoy this.
Ari Shaffir is an unapologetically edgy, crass, and shocking comedian who refuses to be silenced no matter how much
Jewish?
backlash he
Is that
gets.
whatever it's
Unsurprisingly,
called
many
on a
see
set?
him as a disgusting bully, whereas others see him as almost a saving grace for comedy, based on the idea that comedians should be able to say anything they want, that no topic, no matter how controversial, is off limits while delivering jokes. With podcasts
Including the N-word. Come on,
the line
guys.
between jokes and reality is almost non-existent. As they broadcast thousands of hours of unfiltered conversations, they slowly expose their reality behind the act. Over the past decade, Ari has acted on and openly admitted to suspicious behavior that now even his fans are starting to feel uneasy about. Ari Shaffir was born in New York City but raised in North Carolina.
Oh yeah, he's definitely Jewish if he was born from there.
Romanian Jewish descent. His father was a Holocaust survivor, which is why Ari was
I
essentially
feel bad.
exiled from his family after he told his father he lost his faith in Judaism.
Did you talk to your parents about it?
Yeah, I came out of the closet,
Okay.
as it were.
How did that go?
Not that
The
great.
closet.
My father said I was lower than a dog.
Wow.
Even a dog believes in God.
Ari grew up watching shows like Live from the Laugh Factory and Johnny Carson, dreaming of doing stand-up himself one day. He graduated college, turned 25 years old, and decided it was time to move
Oh
to
my
Los
god, he looks so
Angeles
much
and finally
like
get to
different,
finish
younger.
his
Of course, people
dream.
always
He
look
tried to the
different when they're
iconic
young,
Laugh
but
Factory,
he
who
looks like a
had
different
friends
person
like
at that
Bob
age.
Saget, Adam Sandler, Jimmy Fallon, and Roseanne, just to name a few. On his way to the factory, he drove past the Comedy Store, a smaller club that he was unfamiliar with. Ari decided he would just toss in an application there, where he eventually got his first job answering the phones. Mitzi Shore,
You know,
the
with
renowned
that kind of like frizzly hair, he does look like someone who would be like in a Adam Sandler movie as like the wacky best friend or like the pushover kind of guy. So he does seem to be, you know, starting off
Let
well.
him work the doors so he could watch other comedians and learn from them. Ari sat and watched emerging talents such as Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, Bobby Lee, and Sebastian Maniscalco dominate the stage every night. After 4.5 years, Mitzi eventually made Ari a paid regular at the club. He was now officially a full-time stand-up comic, but needed to push the boundaries to compete with the
I
best
hate his
shows that were
mustache so
emerging in
much.
LA.
It looks so
Ari
bad.
produced a short video series titled The Amazing Racist in 2004. The title was a spin on The Amazing Race, and Ari is acting in a manner which is overtly and ironically racist. The show was featured on National Lampoon's Lost Reality, a DVD compilation of reality shows and episodes that networks wouldn't dare to air on TV. Ari wouldn't gain much traction from this until years after YouTube
I
launched.
miss how back in, I don't miss because around 2004 I was still a baby, so of course I can't perceive but it's so weird how back in the day comedy stuff like this had to be so try hard to get at least some attention. I mean, I feel like people were still willing to watch it, but there must have been some part that made them really want to go far. It's like doing like dark comedy stuff. Not even dark comedy. So far it seems kind of like edgy humor. Apart from this title, which I have to admit I kind of like, with the setup of like The Amazing Racist, but it's just some guy who runs really fast. So I like that so far.
Ripped from the DVD.
No more, I take it back.
Sorry, boy. Man, it's hotter in Africa out there. What's up, Fat Albert? Listen, I need a couple lighters.
This sucks,
Got a
dude.
couple lighters?
You walk around with that shit on. You want a motherfucking lighter from this? Do you know what you are?
Today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna with the lowest of the low. Mexicans. Let's go. Let's go sneak in the kitchen, see who we can with.
No, I don't care about Mexicans. Them.
All right. Hey. No, it's okay. Go ahead. It's wet. It's got a wet back. It's true. Don't work so hard. Take a break. Take
This
a
is the funniest
siesta.
ever.
Come on, it's not a big deal. Just lie down. Oh. Where do you guys keep the babies? I know you have 20 babies. Where do you keep them?
It seems like some of the bits feature paid actors who poorly react to Ari's behavior, especially when you consider the multiple different perfect camera angles which are often in front of the subject's face. Although The Amazing Racist was a less funny and less creative version of The Chappelle Show, the desire for Americans to indulge in racist humor was apparently very strong, because Ari was approached by fellow comedians.
It's funny how back in that day, everyone had the same mental mindset as a teenager. Would I find that funny?
Who many know as the ShamWow guy, was producing a movie called Inappropriate Comedy, which starred Michelle Rodriguez, Lindsay Lohan, and Oscar winner Adrian Brody. Ari had a larger budget this time around, which he didn't spend on a team to write better jokes, but rather costumes and gimmicks to enhance the same surface level stereotypes.
Can I interest you guys in a boat ride? We're giving away free boat rides today. We're trying to get, what do you guys call yourself? African Americans to back to Africa.
I shouldn't laugh at that because now I look like a hypocrite, making it sound like it's just lazy comedy.
Back to Africa. You know, where you're from.
Hey man, I'm from here. What the hell are you talking about?
We got you lots of American jobs where you can eat the corn and the stick, and you save up money, dinero, you buy a lowrider, and just ruin the neighborhood. Bring property values down for everybody. Okay, well, enjoy yourself.
Oh, that's
I got one for you.
I hope he's the one guy that's a paid actor.
Get out of the car. I got one. Find a black guy to park that.
Well, I shouldn't be laughing at this because it is just bad.
The National Lampoon Lost Reality movie, clips from the Inappropriate Comedy movie would also be uploaded to YouTube, securing millions of views almost every time.
It's just you're driving really f***ing dangerous right now. Please, just try to concentrate on the road. Open your eyes!
I don't know if this is safe.
It's please, it's safer than having your eyes half closed. So that eye's way better, right?
That's definitely a paid actor, because how do you set up someone who wants a driving lesson with him?
Jokes featuring paid actors who signed waivers approving of the comedy. Others, even as far as back as a decade, just couldn't find the humor in the blatant racism. Piggybacking off the momentum, Ari released his first stand-up album, Revenge for the Holocaust, in 2012, which reached #1 on the iTunes and Amazon comedy albums chart. Then he produced his first stand-up special, Passive Aggressive. Ari was respected by his comedy peers. One particular comedian, Joe Rogan, took a liking to him. In 2010, Joe invited Ari on the 3rd ever episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Ari was a guest in...
I love how in the early episode of his podcast, he had the worst set possible. Just his random living room.
Podcast in the world. Slowly throughout the 2010s, comedians hosting podcasts became more and more common, since they all realized how Joe Rogan's stand-up audiences started increasing as his podcast became more popular. This would be the beginning of Ari showing his dark side. On an episode of Punch Drunk Sports, one of Ari's now defunct podcasts, he berated his employee and producer, known as The Fat Man, for accidentally making an error that led to Ari not being able to take calls from viewers on the air.
We have the show, it was recorded, the audio is on, fans can hear it. It was just, that was my fault.
But we couldn't do any of the calls we wanted for the 100 episodes.
Like you hit a switch that had big X on it and tape all around that said, do not touch this button, never touch this button.
Okay, first of all, hold on.
Single notice, he wouldn't have done it. If you prepared at all, he wouldn't have done it.
There was notice on that thing. That thing says right on it.
Saying how to take.
But first off, if he's popular for like the kind of comedy he did earlier, I really don't want to see what his fans are like.
It's really dark down there.
Always taped up.
Saying don't touch or actually how to do something. Not what not to do or what actually to do. Because he couldn't figure out what to do.
Telling someone what not to do is the same as telling him what to do. Do not do this. At the very least, do not ever.
And that's how we're supposed to take phone calls for 100th episode? That's how we're supposed to take phone calls? Do not do? That's supposed to help us?
That's the phone line. That was
You asshole, I'm glad I never learned your name.
Ari continued to scold the man and let him know just how much he...
That's kind of ironic, 100 episodes and you don't even know his name. And another thing, he really like suits the personality of the body type he has, just like some scrawny nerd that gets really angry if you close to him and he just yell at you for like the tiniest things. Most people at best will try to like get like kind of like passive aggressive behind the camera so they don't look bad to all the fans. But if you're like just straight on yelling at someone who's an employee or producer, like he said, on camera for everyone to see, then it does look somewhat like, you know, tone deaf. You know, like calm down, dude.
Go home. Get out and go home. Go take a smoke break for 2 hours. You're not wanted here. You're adding nothing. Go home. I'm not sorry that I'm hurting you. Get the f*** out of here. Leave. Just leave if you're not gonna help. Fix the f***ing phones or leave.
I got it. I got the show.
Are you fixing the phones?
Man,
you got the show. All right, fat man, get out. You're just a distraction. Get the f***
I
out.
don't even know how to fix that.
All you do is give us bad drops. Get the f*** out or fix it. Are you moving to fix it or get out? It should be one or the other right now.
Fix it.
Then
I'm
get
driving
the f***
for a
out.
week.
Then go home.
God, okay.
Get the f*** out and go home.
Judge a man by how he treats his subordinates, not his equals. However, this blow-up is a minor form of aggression compared to the violent attack he committed on fellow comedian Bobby Lee many years later.
He's definitely gonna bring us some racist joke to him.
Ari's fame continued to slowly increase as he released his second special in 2015.
He looks like a twink in that picture.
Comedy Central. Then in 2017, he released Double Negative on Netflix, which consisted of two 45-minute shows. And it was around 2017 where the Joe Rogan effect really started to blossom. Podcast comedians started to emerge from the deep corners of the internet to the mainstream. Tom Segura, Theo Vaughn, Brendan Schaub, Bert Kreischer, Bobby Lee, and so many others saw their viewership exponentially increase. In May of 2017, Bobby shared a brutal story of a few interactions with Ari Shaffir that seemed too vicious to be true, but it was. It all began when Bobby was performing at the Comedy Store one night, and fellow comedian Ron Peterson, who Bobby worked with on Mad TV at the time, came up and asked him a question.
Well, I was at the Comedy Store one night, and he goes, "Who's that on stage?" I go, "That's Natasha Leggero." He goes, "She's hot." I go, "Yeah, but she lives with Ari Shaffir." Ron Peterson goes, "All right." And then a couple hours later, I was driving him back to the hotel where we were staying at, and he goes, "I got her number." I go, "Yeah, but she's seeing my friend Ari." He's like, "Yeah, but she's gonna go on." So she starts like going to like plays with him, dinners behind Ari's back, right? And then out of nowhere, Ari calls me, "You love me, dude." I go, "Yeah, but," she goes, "You set them up."
Bobby didn't necessarily feel like he was doing anything wrong, but he did try to convince Ron that asking for Natasha's number was a bad idea. But Ari was irrational and emotional and gave Bobby an insane ultimatum.
"If you don't do this for me,"
Don't tell me guys heartbroken for pussy.
Whoa.
What was the thing?
break into his office at Mad TV.
Yeah.
Go into his computer and steal the emails between Ron and
that's some intense
Natasha.
shit.
So I go, I can't break into his fucking office at Mad TV.
After refusing to commit the felony, Ari got violent.
So I go, no, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, then you set them up. So that Friday, I show up at the Comedy Store, and I'm checking in at the front counter, and he punches me in the face.
Like for real punches you?
I fall.
How do you have this kind of drama at some place called the Comedy Store?
Now I'm
It doesn't
bleeding.
add
I'm
up.
bleeding. But then as I get up, I hear my name being called.
On stage?
On stage. And I go up on stage.
And did you talk about it, or?
I only went up for 1 minute.
Yeah.
And I go, that guy right there. You know what I mean? I'm bleeding from the face. He beat the out of me. You know what I mean? Like I called him out. Ari Shaffir.
The club manager convinced Bobby that he shouldn't press charges and that Ari was just emotional, so Bobby obliged. Then the following week, he got assaulted again.
Man, with someone like him, I feel like he's one of the people that he did get emotional, but after the rush of emotion, he would still see as what he did as, right. So you can't really be patient with him to get more better.
And he's squeezing, and then my neck starts bleeding because he has his nails gouged into my neck.
But it didn't stop there. All
that's
while this
fine.
conflict was going on, Ari Shaffir successfully secured a role on Carlos Mencia's Mind of Mencia show, which blended comedy skits and live stand-up. This would have been a pretty good gig for a comedian at the time. However, Carlos was out of town, and when he returned, he heard about what happened to Bobby Lee. Mencia called up Ari, telling
And
him
he's
that
trying to
because he
Bobby Lee
beat
as
up
well.
Bobby, he will be removed from the show. In Ari's mind, Bobby was sabotaging first his personal life and now his comedy career, prompting him to attack Bobby yet again.
So then I show up at the Comedy Store after he gets fired from Mind of Mencia. Like I park the car, I close the door, I hear, and then no running because he's in the air.
Doing a Superman punch?
Yeah. He does a Superman punch from behind. Pap! I fall to the ground, right? I just run straight to the office.
Surely that would be enough for you to just shoot him.
Call 911.
Because of this situation, Ari was banned from the Comedy Store, the club that kickstarted his whole career. For the next few years, Ari would bully Bobby any chance he could, calling him every sort of insult whenever they passed by each other. And for the longest time, Bobby could never get through to him that it wasn't his fault. It took 5 years for Ari to realize Bobby had nothing to do with it and that he was overly emotional. And they
5 years? That's like a kid. No, even a kid would forget about that within a week. And even then, he would be more angry at the guy who cheated on him with his girlfriend than the friend of the cheater. Like that barely makes any sense. You know, in that podcast they were laughing, but I feel like this story is so violent. But it sounds like it's being told by someone else, with it being more formal and crying because of how like traumatic it was. I mean, if that was me, I would definitely wouldn't tell on a podcast just like having a laugh about it. I would just be more horrified by getting punched so many times and strangled.
Learned that Bobby Lee kind of twisted the story a little bit. It
Oh
turns
god
out
damn you! I was just talking about it.
that Bobby needed to be friends with to help his career, and Bobby was actually calling Ari over and over to find out if him and Natasha were broken up so that Ron could make his move. Additionally, when Ari first attacked Bobby, it was because Bobby was egging him on, getting in his face, and Ari gave him a fair warning.
And then I saw you at the store.
Yeah.
Oh, is that him? I was kind of.
It hit me now
weird.
where you were on this, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty mad. And you're like, and then the way you were smiling, like, I just think about
It
that.
does feel kind of cookie to bring your own attacker who punched you in the face onto your own podcast.
Well, I'll admit I did that.
And you're like, let me just say, I was like, I don't think you hitting, like, how much is this hurting me? You're like, let me just say you want that. I'm like, dude, get the fuck away or I'm gonna hit you. And then you kept doing it, and then I just punched you, and you fell. So you didn't even give me the satisfaction of fighting back.
But you kicked me while I was down there.
Yeah, well, you were down.
Bobby twisted the story to make
Yeah,
Ari
poor
seem
George,
like a
yeah,
total
fair enough.
psychopath attacking people unprovoked. But at the end of the day, Ari still violently unleashed his anger on a guy who had basically nothing to do with his girlfriend cheating on him. And you would think that as Shafir got more famous, he would be more careful of what he says and does. But that couldn't be further from reality. On a 2018 episode of the Punch Drunk Sports podcast, Ari shared a very questionable story of him willingly exposing himself to a minor.
I was at my friend's house. She's a lesbian, single mother.
He looks like he would. Oh my god, he's doing it right now.
She goes, can she watch you pee? Because she needs to see what a penis looks like before it's too.
What?
Yeah.
What?
She doesn't want the first penis she sees to be.
That guy down the right is 17. I know him personally.
Dude, why would she choose yours?
I know, but this is what she said. She was like, why does it come out of that thing? And I was like,
Hold on. Oh, wait, you let the kid watch you pee? I know. You let the kid watch you pee?
Even worse, he showed the kid a false portrayal of a penis because he's definitely circumcised.
No, but then she went to touch it. I was like, don't, crossing a line.
How old is she? Hold on.
Even a bunch of edgy comedians are listening to this story in total shock and keep asking him over and over if this is fake. But Ari reassures everyone that this was a true story. If that's the story Ari told, you know it's probably worse. You just let a 5-year-old watch you pee? Yeah, right. Where is Chris Hansen when you need him? With Ari being so reckless with his
take a seat
words,
right there
it was
for
only
me.
a matter of time before he crossed a line that would have serious ramifications. And he did that on January 26th, 2020, the day NBA legend Kobe Bryant died along with his
Oh, he's gonna make a joke about it.
Gianna when their private helicopter suddenly failed, crashing into the Santa Monica Mountains. When the news broke, the entire world was in shock. Kobe is one of the best basketball players of all time. Plus, he was a family man who gave back to underserved communities just as much as he gave to the NBA.
You know, with him making fun of Kobe and his past of racist jokes, he would definitely be sicked on by the black community.
While millions of people were mourning the loss of the legend, tweeting their raw emotions, Ari's take erupted with backlash. 4 hours after the reports of the death of Kobe and Gigi, Ari posted a tweet reading, "Kobe Bryant died 23 years too late today. He got away with grape because all the Hollywood liberals who attack comedy enjoy rooting for the Lakers more than they dislike R-word. Big ups to the hero who forgot to gas up his chopper. I hate the Lakers. What a great day. F the Lakers." After catching a huge wave of criticism from his tweet, he shortly doubled down with a video.
As I know, there's always a lot of hate, pain in the world, and there's always a bunch of terrible stories. And every once in a while, there's a good story. Good story comes out. The guy who got away with got his today.
Yeah, bro, the daughter, man, Christ.
Kobe Bryant is gone. I'm here in Charlotte, the home of the team that originally drafted him. Maybe he wouldn't have raped that chick in Denver if he had stayed in Charlotte with the Hornets.
Most people had no
Come on, dude. When this guy brought up Kobe Bryant, I thought he was gonna make some very horrible taste joke that was a little bit too far. But the fact that he openly made fun of him dying, completely disregarding his daughter as well, and making it sound like it was a victory for everyone that he died in a horrible accident, and just so soon after it happened as well, he couldn't even wait.
known as the guy who mocked Kobe Bryant's death. The comedy community addressed his comments.
You know, there were children that died. And so you can't, it's just, that's too much to joke about. It's too much. I was like, it's too much.
Doing f***ed up jokes, I don't judge you. But the nastiness in that video, hours after this, there was nothing funny about it. There was no intent to be funny. I was disgusted by the shit.
I think that his tweet, when I look at it, I go, I would not have said that. But Ari is consistent with that bit that he does, where when somebody dies, he says the most fucked up thing he can say about the person.
Comedians were torn because they love Ari and want to defend free speech and comedy, but also understand that this tweet was not a joke, it wasn't funny, and it was definitely bad timing. Just 2 days
that's true. It was barely a joke. It's more like an aggressive statement.
He had a scheduled performance in New York City at the Kips Bay venue. Once Kobe fans discovered this, they began threatening the venue, leading the club to cancel his performance. The venue even filed an aggravated harassment report with the police due to the seriousness of the threats. In response to his show being forcibly cancelled.
At that point, you have to be kind of dumb when you make that kind of joke. To the point that people attack the club that you're going to for a show. Even the dumbest people would recognize that maybe you should lay low for a while after that joke.
To his Instagram, claiming that it was just a joke, trying to justify this as harmless trolling. He pointed back to his history of making crude comments about recently passed celebrities. Every time a beloved celebrity dies, I post some horrible stuff about them. I've been doing it for years now. I like destroying gods, and right when a famous person dies, they're at their most worshipped. Even though he released this,
I like making fun of gods. Let me make fun of this poor girl that died with her dad. Hell yeah.
Is not sorry.
That you do not regret your whatever it was, a tweet or a story or something about Kobe.
You gotta be true to your fucking stand-up, man.
I mean, dude, it's insane.
I see all these people whenever some celebrity dies, they're wrenching their fucking clothes publicly, making it about themselves, and it's always nauseating to me.
The situation did momentarily thwart his career, but then it helped him. While the pandemic was in full effect, comedians were being criticized and canceled seemingly every week for their edgy jokes that people on the internet did not approve of. However, this started an uprising of free speech defenders who wanted to show their support for comedians. As the world became more politically correct, the demand for edgy and unhinged comedy became stronger than ever, which birthed the Skankfest.
He is the worst person to be the forefront of that movement.
Fantasy camps for comedians. We were surrounded by some of the best and darkest comics and the fans that love them. Ari Shaffir is one of the most famous acts who has continuously headlined Skankfest since 2016, and the fans encourage him to be as disturbing as possible.
Every comedian gets a huge pop when they walk out on stage. The fans are so eager to hear good jokes all day. It's insane. Especially because every single person within a 10-mile radius of this festival is either on drugs, looking for drugs, aggressively binge drinking, deathly hungover, or a combination of those 4 options, including the comedians.
Oh, dude, that's epic. I hate that kind of comedy where it doesn't feel natural. It only feels like you really want to do it, because normal people would consider that a bit too edgy, but you're you're rebellious and you're going that far. There's a reason why the only people you see that comedy come from is teenagers, because they're the only people that are just so dumb and so unaware about themselves that they will go that far. But the fact that it's professional comedians makes it so weird to me, because these are people that make a living off it. Sure, they have the mental capacity to recognize how lame it is in general.
It's clear that Skankfest is the perfect home for Ari Shaffir, who has been very open about his love for experimenting with drugs. In fact, one of his favorite things to do is give other people drugs without their consent, as he has openly admitted to doing it multiple times. If you've seen my video about Bert Kreischer, you know Ari is no stranger to dosing people or spiking their drinks with drugs without them knowing. Just as a quick recap, one night Bert invited his good friend and fellow comedian Ari Shaffir over to his house to do a podcast. Ari shook Bert's 13 and 15-year-old daughter's hands, walked into the podcast room where they were going to share some drinks. Ari decided to secretly slip a capsule of MDMA, aka Molly, into Bert's drink without him knowing, to which Bert had a terrible experience on the drug. Bert, as well as many of his comedy peers, told Ari that what he did was reckless and genuinely concerning. But others, such as Joe Rogan and Nikki Glazer, thought it was hilarious. But this wasn't the first nor the last time Ari would admit to committing this crime.
But that's not the only time you dose somebody, though.
No, it's been a few times.
It's been a few times. But I'm actually really good at dosing. I've just had a couple like overboards, but really everybody had a good time. I'll stand.
How
by
has he
it.
not been in trouble for
had a bad time
doing
on
something
it.
for a woman with that statement?
With your girlfriend or wife afterwards, they get pissed.
But it's even worse when you see him do it with your own eyes. During an appearance on the Legion of Skanks
With that kind of like long nose, I wouldn't be surprised if he can drop the tablet from his nose. You make it secretly.
Luis Gomez hatched a plan to dose Ari's drink at the start of the show and revealed to him later on that this was a prank.
I gave it to my employee. I was like, make sure this gets in Ari Shafir's beer. Okay, just put a tab of acid in his beer. Now, I f***ed up and I told Shane, thinking that Shane, you know, look, I get that he's on Team Ari, but at the same time, it's pretty goddamn funny to dose Ari Shafir with acid on Legion of Skanks.
Yeah.
Let us just do it.
All right.
Let us do I assumed that
Okay,
Shane would just let it happen because that is the absolute funniest scenario.
Ari soon found out about Luis Gomez's plan, and instead of pouring the drink out, he decided to slide the drug drink to fellow comedian Big J Okerson. You might be thinking Ari was just getting someone back for drugging him, but what Ari did was dose someone who suffers from anxiety and does not take acid. And as you can imagine, Big J wasn't very happy about the situation. Many of the die-hard comedy fans see Ari
When you
as
tell someone that they've taken drugs, it's very more on the side that they're gonna panic more than be like, wait, really? Awesome.
overly sensitive PC society, a man who is unafraid to push the boundaries of comedy. They don't take what he says on podcasts seriously because he is simply just joking. Others see him as a self-admitted criminal, potential predator, and borderline psychopath who excuses his suspicious behavior as just jokes. But Ari is not the only successful comedian whose behavior is destroying them. Bert Kreischer is on the same path of self-destruction, but in a totally different way. Check that video out next.
Right, so what happened to that guy that got spiked by him again by sliding the drink without him knowing? I'm just gonna assume the worst and believe that he died, so rest in peace. You know what, with the kind of comedy stuff that he does have a very easy avenue to become big, because that stuff will garner you a fan base. It's like a weird yin and yang where the comedy, the jokes you make is seen like very off taste and isn't meant for like the general public, but at the same time there's a huge market for people who love that kind of stuff, which isn't that surprising to me. The one part that shocks me that I can't wrap my head around is the fact that he's been doing it for so long. Like surely someone would only do that kind of comedy in the early stage of the career, and then over time it evolved to more, not mature stuff, but different stuff. It doesn't feel like it's being repeated over and over and over. Because even now he seems like someone who's new to comedy, and they're trying really hard to like separate themselves from like a normie comedian that's scared of everything by doing the kind of jokes that he does. But it felt like it's still like a huge part of his character. I don't understand. At best, even if your fans like that, I feel like there would be a time where it's get out of it and you have to make it like new stuff. But I mean, if he's still big now and it's still going on podcasts, I guess it's working, so, you know. So who am I to say? But even I feel like if I was a comedian, I would have to change my kind of style at least once, you know, even if I'm really used to it. But the fact that he's like 40 now, when he started like at 20, there's really no chance of him changing. So I guess my only advice I can follow is, you know, make as much money as you can, because, you know, clearly it's working.